Of course, we should ban kitty and libel and personal threats and calls for insurrection. That's a no-brainer because they're already illegal. Just as it would be illegal in an actual town square to whip out.
The left loves to present itself as America's moral compass, righteous, enlightened, and always standing on the right side of history. But Bill Maher isn't buying that narrative. A lifelong liberal himself, Maher has become one of the left's loudest critics, exposing the hypocrisy and delusion that have taken root within his own camp. He argues that what was once a noble movement grounded in truth and reason has devolved into tribalism and outrage. It's a bold statement, but once you hear what he has to say, you'll understand why his words make the so-called truth police scramble for cover.
I don't believe any of it. Not right away. Not until I check it out. And when I ask, is it true? Usually the answer turns out to be, well, sort of. Or yes, but yeah. See, we've all become very adept at saying things that are technically true but lack context, or that leave out half the story. So if we're going to ban untruth, does that include the half-truth, the quarter-truth? And wait, don't the wokest people in the world believe that what really matters is your truth?
Yeah, I'm with Maher on this one. If the left wants to play the role of truth police, we have to ask, what truth are they actually defending? Is it the kind that challenges power or the kind that protects it? It's easy to champion truth when it flatters your beliefs, advances your agenda, and makes you look virtuous. But the real test comes when that same truth turns against you, when it exposes flaws in your ideology, your leaders, or your sacred narratives. That's when most people suddenly lose their appetite for honesty. Maher's point is sharp but undeniable. Truth isn't supposed to be partisan. You can't claim to defend facts while censoring or mocking the ones that make you uncomfortable. Either you stand for truth all the way, or you're just running a propaganda campaign with better marketing.
Of course, we should ban kitty libel and personal threats and calls for insurrection. That's a no-brainer because they're already illegal. Just as it would be illegal in an actual town square to whip out.
Leftists often brag about being the guardians of truth, banning lies, conspiracy theories, and criminal content. And sure, that part's easy. No one's defending misinformation or illegal behavior. But that's not where the real fight is. The real danger begins when truth itself is distorted, filtered, or edited to serve a political agenda. When facts are handpicked to shield an ideology or silence dissent. That's not truth policing, it's truth manipulation. And Maher's been sounding the alarm on it for years. He's watched the left drift from defending free debate to enforcing ideological uniformity. They're no longer just correcting falsehoods, they're curating reality. And that's the most dangerous form of censorship, the kind disguised as moral righteousness, carried out under the pretense of protecting people from ideas they're fully capable of judging for themselves.
In the digital town square. And so should bots and deep fakes be banned and anything else that aren't really the people who say they are. But that's an entirely different thing than actual people expressing an opinion as repugnant or offensive or as misguided as some opinions may be. This is still America. Where people... where people have the right to express what they think, including to be wrong, to lie, and yes, the right to be And if you think you know everything and no one else could possibly have some other truth, you should be glad for that protection. Because
this is America, a nation built on the principle that freedom of speech isn't just a right. It's the foundation of democracy itself. It's what separates open societies from authoritarian ones. Everyone should have the freedom to express their thoughts, no matter how controversial or unpopular they may be. But that freedom also carries responsibility, because others have the same right to challenge, debate, and fact-check those ideas. That's how truth grows stronger, through open dialogue, not forced silence. It's a delicate balance. Too much control leads to censorship, too little breeds chaos. But here's the truth. Free speech was never meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be real, raw, and sometimes uncomfortable. The moment we start silencing voices for our own good, we begin to lose the very soul of America, the right to think, speak, and disagree without fear.
Democrats last year believed the hospitalization rate if you got COVID unvaccinated was over 50%, when it was actually less than 1%. Somebody's misinformation got to those people. Sometimes misinformation is just history's first draft. I see a lot of things on social media, and also on old fucks media.
Maher isn't holding back when it comes to the DNC's handling of COVID. As he put it, the party that preached trust the science was often selling selective truths instead. He called out the misinformation that clouded vaccine reporting, how anyone who questioned mandates was immediately labeled ignorant, selfish, or even dangerous. Throughout the pandemic, mainstream outlets bombarded the public with alarming headlines, insisting that the unvaccinated were overwhelming hospitals. But Maher argues the data told a very different story. According to him, the numbers were exaggerated to pressure compliance and shame dissenters. In reality, he says, fewer than 1% of the unvaccinated ended up hospitalized. That's not just a minor correction. It's a revelation that turns the official narrative upside down. And for Maher, it's proof of a deeper problem. Blind faith in political messaging isn't science. It's a fast track to mass deception.
That more effectively captures what's wrong with today's journalism than the sad saga of what happened last week at the Washington Post. They need to keep it to themselves because it would be too depressing. If you missed it, the Washington Post recently got embroiled in a self-inflicted shitstorm when one of their best reporters, David Weigel, retweeted this joke. Every girl is bi. You just have to figure out if it's polar or... Proving it is a joke. Thank you. The comedian who actually wrote the tweet called it a banal throwaway joke, which is exactly what it is. Throwaway, as in if you don't like it, throw it away. For eons, both sexes have made jokes about how the other is crazy, and no one but the perpetually offended thinks it means anything more than that the sexes get frustrated over how differently we each see the world. And yes, we relieve some of that frustration with humor and scene.
Yeah, that's exactly the issue. The woke crowd seems perpetually offended by everything. Nothing is off limits anymore. A harmless joke, a classic poem, even a decades-old movie can suddenly become problematic because it doesn't fit today's constantly shifting moral code. It's like walking through a cultural minefield where intent no longer matters. Only interpretation does. Comedy, once the final frontier of free expression, has taken the hardest hit. Comedians now second-guess every line, terrified of being branded insensitive or canceled over a single punchline. Yet despite the backlash, and the fact that most Americans are exhausted by this outrage circus, the woke crusaders keep pushing, trying to sanitize humor and redefine what's acceptable. But here's the irony. In doing so, they've only proven Maher's point. When everything's offensive, nothing's funny, and truth itself becomes the ultimate taboo.
Weigel pulled down his retweet and wrote, "I apologize and did not mean to cause any harm," and that was the end of that. I'm joking, of course. The unlicensed daycare center that is today's newsroom went... You see, the Post has another writer named Felicia Sonmez, and she's a lot. For example, she tweeted about Kobe Bryant's 2003 rape trial hours after his helicopter crash. And despite the fact that she says Dave Weigel is a good friend, she resurrected the tweet he had taken down with a screenshot and demanded to know what the Post was going to do about this unacceptable evil that must not be allowed to stand. Sarcastically writing, "Fantastic to work at a news outlet where tweets like this are allowed." Yes, can you imagine a world that allows jokes you don't like?
The most infuriating thing about cancel culture is that it never ends with an apology. You can delete the tweet, issue a heartfelt statement, and go out of your way to make amends, but it's never enough. The mob isn't looking for remorse, it's looking for destruction. Once they've decided you're guilty, their goal is total erasure. They come after your job, your reputation, your income, even your family. Nothing is off limits. One misinterpreted joke or decade-old post can spiral into a full-blown witch hunt, fueled by social media outrage and performative virtue signaling. It's no longer about accountability. It's about control. It's about deciding who gets to speak and who gets silenced. And that's exactly what Maher keeps warning about. When outrage turns into entertainment and forgiveness disappears, society doesn't move forward. It devours itself, one canceled person at a time.